Welcome to South Harmon. Welcome to South Harmon. Hey, welcome to South Harmon. We glad you here today. Another AMA. Ask me anything. Super chat is cool if you wanna pay to play. Like and subscribe, that's what we really appreciate. Let me introduce you to the tear down king. Mike McNutted, ask your questions, he'll answer anything. ATM, you know Adam put them graphics on the screen. Glad you tapped in now, stay tapped in for the team. Hey, everything is posted. Go follow the socials. South Harmon FF tag us if we get noticed. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Another AMA. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today.
What's up, everybody? Wednesday night AMA. We are here because we are late. It is my fault. Recording the trade show. You could definitely tell Adam's like trying to speed me along, but it's my Jordan flu game.
Nah, man, look.
one night a year where I'm fucked up, sick. I'm gonna drink it away. This is gonna pour out.
We're gonna make this a good one. And let me shout out T-Rock, man. I've been trying not to drink too much of this. I've been cutting back on drinking some just because when I was traveling and everything with the kids, I'm like, bro, it's not even worth it because I wake up just as miserable as could be. Like, but I've already kind of torn into this a little more. But he got this for me at the Expo Bakers, and when I'm feeling really good and right, Mike, I'm into it. Oh, you always got to show me up. That looks tremendous. And I'll tell you one thing: when you're sick, you get a little bit of sweet in it. Like, yeah, all right, yeah. I'm in it. I'm in.
A little pancake, a little bacon.
Pancake action. Oh, Mike, we're sitting here ready to rock.
Jay Jackson's ready to rock. He just comes right out the gates fire.
You know what, Mike? I actually wish I had this. It's funny he puts the Mixon administration. Mike, I did I'm really into the thumbnails and like the graphics, right? So when I was in this keeper league back in the day, it's kind of crazy thinking how good Joe Mixon is right now today. But this is, I don't know, 2018, okay, something like that. I made a graphic that you could put in as the avatar, right? And I put Joe Mixon's head on actual, our president, and I had the players on my team around him. I'll have to see if I can find that graphic. It was fire. It was like before I knew I would actually have more fun doing those, and it's just kind of interesting thinking about Joe Mixon now, Mike. Dude, that 2018 when he was like a strong keeper, you got to have Mixon. We're at 2024, and we are looking at, for me personally, who's had him and loved him in a lot of leagues, the best version of Joe Mixon that we've seen. I mean, talk about bourbon. Guy that's aging very well. What the hell's going on?
He's looking good. Jay says I'm on that bottle of Bubba's pancakes and whiskey. It's pretty fucking close, man. I don't own a hat like that, though. That's a dope hat.
We can change that. We can get you a hat for sure. Mike, you know what's funny? I just realized, I always do messing with the mic, right? So I was sitting down with Fizz, getting stuff ready for a show we're doing in a couple weeks. Playing around with this, the other one popped off. Just piece of metal, broke. Like, so I'm sitting here having to hold this. This is the new one that has, you don't have to have the SoundCloud on it. And pause, it's longer,
Pause. It's longer. Blacker.
It's a big thing right near my mouth that's longer.
Just in case anyone's wondering, as far as you fuckers are concerned, this is an AJ Brown jersey. It's definitely not an old Carson Wentz jersey.
It's not? You sure?
I might just tape the back. Cleveland Browns fans have been doing that for years, right?
I was gonna say that, well, this is a 107 proof, and it's so good. That first time it stings the nostrils. But Mike, I'll tell you this: Browns fans that aren't me, I have a jersey problem. I have a lot of problems, but in particular a jersey problem. Mike, you go down to the Muni lot, you tailgating, you are far, far, far more likely to see a jersey that is not a player currently on the team than you are a player on the team. Like,
player. I love it. I love it.
It's almost at the Muni lot in Cleveland. It's almost like, you know what? I'm not even going to pretend. I'm not even going to tape the back of this up. We're going to own this thing. Like, you'll see Joe Hayden jerseys there. Like, Joe Hayden's been in Pittsburgh, it feels like, for how many years now? They're still wearing Joe Hayden's fucking jersey.
Still playing? I thought he retired.
Bro, I seen him out there. I seen him out there in that Ravens game. I'm like, okay. Well, he's I don't know that he's very good anymore, but he's out there, you know.
I would have lost that bet, man. I didn't even know he's still in the league.
23, man. 23. Unless I'm almost positive. I would take that bet. Now, let me say this about Mixon, and in particular for you. Like, where we're at now in the season, it's crazy because the primetime game, and they got the absolutely shit stomp fucking Dallas, Mike. I mean, this whole Dallas, these Dallas Cowboys are just a joke now, you know.
Poor Fizzle's in here. Y'all taking it a little too far, calling Mixon the king of Texas.
Oh no, I didn't take it too far. I took it exactly where it needed to be, baby.
I don't know if we took it far enough. I mean, sorry, Shizzles. Your Cowboys are ass, bro. Like, they haven't been America's team for about 20 years now. Just saying.
Back when they had Jerry. Oh, there you go.
There we back up.
It was back when they had it was Jerry and Jimmy, right? Back when they had them. That was about
we killing this fucking thing tonight with, you know, fucking Swedish Zins and pancake whiskey. But the Cowboys have been fucking dog shit. Just a mediocre, crappy. I mean, they haven't been dog shit. The Browns and Jaguars, and, you know, up until this last couple of years, the Lions existed. They just haven't been good. Okay, they haven't been good. They're all hype. They're no substance whatsoever. And then in prime time, you know, I get it, it's fucking Cooper Rush or whatever. But like, you had Michael Parsons is back, you know, this vaunted Dallas defense, and CJ Stroud's been a game manager and playing, you know, kind of mid. Joe Mixon was like, I got this.
You know what kind of sucks is that, like, Stroud has actually been so average that it's not as fun to like, it's not. It's fun when the player's still good and playing at an elite level, and you're kind of like, yeah, but we told you that this can happen, and he still won't matter in fantasy. It's not as fun when it's like you're kind of like beating on the hapless, you know, like, yeah. CJ Stroud just isn't. He is as mid gets for fantasy right now. I'm actually going to ask you this question before we get to the Mixon graphic and all that. Are you at all worried about CJ Stroud's development long term and for fantasy as well, or is this just a year that you're kind of thinking we can write off in a progression of his career?
Well, you know, it's a thing, right? They don't come up with a name for it unless it actually happens, you know, more than once as a one-off. Sophomore slump, baby. Sophomore slump. So I'm okay. I'm okay with him being kind of mid or average, right? I think it just more proved our point, especially in the offseason when we're breaking down quarterback scoring and fantasy and where it comes from, that while CJ Stroud was dope and you and I were both very excited about what he did last year, that I thought people got way over their skis when they're like QB1 in Dynasty or QB2 or QB3. I don't know where the fuck he's at now. Probably still way too high. But his fantasy production was never going to be like super solid, like game-changing elite, because he doesn't do what? He runs the football. And they were joking about it on the broadcast too, about, you know, what's your 40 time or whatever. Looked like it's about a 5.1, which gonna dust me, but still, he just doesn't run the football in the ways that gives you fantasy production for the quarterback. But I still think he's really dope, great player. I'm not buying CJ Stroud until the price corrects itself. And with the way people keep caping him up, I don't know if you're ever going to see it, right? Like, I think this year they'd be like, we'll just take our lump and we'll chalk it up to the sophomore slump. And I do think next year will be better. I do think, you know, he gets another year under him, more comfortable. Hopefully the rest of the offense is a lot more healthy. You had Tank Dell coming off a pretty serious injury. He's never really looked right this year. Nico Collins had that terrible hamstring. He loses Stephon Diggs to an ACL. I think next year when all the pieces really start to come together and they don't have to rely on Joe Mixon as much, he could actually deliver on what his dynasty value is. My hope is, I like the player. I love the talent. I love his arm talent. He's just more of that QB 8 to like 13 range in Dynasty than he ever was a top 5 option. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we actually get to that point where I'm like, okay, now I'm comfortable buying into CJ Stroud. I think the train is already gone and left the station. But maybe if he has another 6 weeks looking like he has for the rest of the season, maybe people will really start to push him down, and the hate will actually come in. Because dynasty managers are a fickle bunch, man. They are a fickle bunch. They will hold on for a long time until it's too long, but nobody can ever tell you when.
Well, okay. Can I tell you though? You know what's interesting? I think we can have this conversation, and try to have it in a manner which is busting balls, but also like polite, productive, but also, hey, wake up, shithead. We're all shitheads here. Wake up. Because, Mike, you know what this... Can I tell you what this, to me... I'm not going to call it as... We have a year and change. We don't even have 2 full seasons to go off of. And his rookie season was really good. Sophomore slump, to your point. It was the inverse for one Trevor Lawrence. And, Mike, it's... To me, I think the value insulation, though, is extremely similar, where it's like, how long is too long before the pivot is now to the point where if you have T-Law shares, your window is just dead. Like that, whatever that long period of time you had, shit don't exist now. Now he gets hurt again. Like,
you're not wrong.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to actually make the 1-for-1 comp, but I think it's a comparable situation where Trevor Lawrence, after his sophomore year, was the inverse, right? But he got up to like 8 in Dynasty. And he hung around the top 20, Mike, for how fucking long? How damn long? I'm not saying CJ Stroud's a bad quarterback. I think part of the issue is, Mike, we have this Anthony Richardson thing. We have this Trey Lance, who can't even get in over Cooper Rush. We have these players that are what people think are not very good quarterbacks for the NFL. And they think Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud are just guaranteed surefire good quarterbacks, and they're not incorrect on that, where the problem is their styles of play don't lend to fantasy upside. So you got that safe quarterback, but you're paying out the nose for him, and he doesn't produce like the ones that can rush, even if their long-term security isn't there,
Yeah, I think you're onto something too, because didn't it feel like Trevor Lawrence was like here today and gone tomorrow? Like
very much gone tomorrow. Very much gone tomorrow. Like going into this year, matter of fact, going into the 2023 season last year, T-Law was as hot of a commodity as they came. Going into 2024 this year, stank. Do the stanky leg, right? Like it really was. And now, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a peek. What is the old KT? What are our good friends? Speaking of good friends, Jay Jackson, Dynasty Barry.
QB 19.
What a fall. How the mighty have fallen.
In June, he was QB 13. 1 year ago, he was QB 9.
There you go. I was going to say he was about 8. 9 to 8. You said 18? 19. 9 to 19 is a massive, massive fall. 9 is a player that commanded at that time top 24 draft pick in Dynasty, right? This is now a player that, like, if we were to do a startup today, he's going about where Bo Nix was going in the preseason, probably.
Damn. So let me just say this. Let's future cast a little bit, right? This isn't to take away from Joe Mixon, but sorry, people.
He's still up here. Don't worry.
Quarterbacks run 12-team Superflex leagues. Like they just still they still run them. So we talk about them quite a bit. But let's future cast this a little bit because we just did the trade show. Spoiler alert. There's a Jordan Love trade I made on there. Is Jordan Love that next guy, or could be that next guy?
Well, okay, interesting point. Let's just go. Let's take a peek.
Right now, he's valued very highly, and we love
I was going to say, let's take a peek just for a year window where we're not quite finished, but we're getting close, right? Let's see. The old debate, Mike, we would have had on name brand, off brand. Jordan Love, off brand. CJ Stroud, name brand, right?
Yep.
Right now, guess who is right on the fucking heels, but not still ahead of Jordan Love, CJ Stroud? Like, to me, same picture, but Jordan Love's performing better in fantasy. The problem is he's been banged up. And to me, I'm curious your thoughts here too. I'm not going to say he's like not an NFL quarterback, but the questions are a little bit more arising of, we thought at the end of last year, this guy's surefire stud in the NFL, right? I think he's come down to earth a little bit more, where it's, man, is this guy not quite what we thought he was at the end of last year? So I think right now, I'd honestly prefer Love to Stroud, but they're both, I think, similar pictures. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one we could throw in the mix, Justin Herbert,
who's started to have a rise in points recently, but
a little bit. But yeah, but listen, most of
we
the
called
season
this
has
too.
been
We called
exactly what I told you it was going to be. Like we were talking about this forever with Justin Herbert, where it was like run first offense, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman, team that's going to run the ball and play defense. Your fantasy production is not going to be like it was with Kellen Moore or whoever the fuck else, Jim Bob Cooter, whoever the fuck the offensive coordinator was before Kellen Moore. It's not going to be this throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. It's going to be throw the ball probably in the first half to feel the defense out, and then we're going to seal the fucking game with the running game. And a plethora of just, God damn it, why is Gus Edwards in here? Or last week for me, it was like, fuck, man, Hassan Haskins is still on this fucking team. Why is he getting carries at the goal line? God damn it. Like, this is what it was always going to be. Is Justin Herbert that next one? Like, he's still hanging around this QB9, QB8
I think you might be onto something. Here's, I guess, the question, right? Like, Herbert is crazy. My first video I did with BDG, I talked about this, and I got blasted because at that point, it's so long ago, they had Mike Will still. They had Keenan Allen still, right? And I was saying how the coaching change already is a problem, but really, like, they could end up losing all these weapons, and sure enough, they did. It just took a little while. And Mike, Herbert is one of these players where I think he's talented enough, and they're going to get weapons better than Quentin Johnson. Listen, he's been good for fantasy this year from what we thought he would be, but I'm not going to act like he's the saving grace for their fucking franchise, you know? Come on.
It wasn't a real high bar from last year.
He didn't have to do much. He just had to jump. You know, it was like a step stool. You know, just get up with this. But
the ball.
But I guess the point is, like, a guy like Justin Herbert, right? He is immensely talented. But one of the things about Harbaugh in general and the Harbaugh brothers, right? Like, these guys are actually good enough and competent enough coaches for a window in time in which, like, I don't envision personally there being a coaching change anytime in the next couple seasons, right? So, you know what that means? Speaking of stank, like, he's going to have to do everything in his fucking power to be mid to above mid, right? Like, he's not going to be in these old offenses with, what's his name? I cannot think of the fucking guy's name. They got rid of a coach that was just letting him sling it all over the place.
Right. Well, he was a defensive coach, so he didn't really have too much control over it. But yeah, I get your point.
Was it the offensive court last year?
Last year was Kellen Moore, who threw the ball all over the place, and before that was the fucking Saints guy.
I'm thinking of, wasn't it State? I'm thinking of the head coach then, Staley. Yeah.
He was a defensive guy from the Rams.
But they were letting him
could never put a good defense on the field for the Chargers.
They were letting Herbert, though, Mike, like, throw in the upper parts of the NFL in attempts each game. So, like, that was allowing him to be hyper efficient at top of it, and having, like, when we saw his like another guy sophomore season, outrageous because he was breaking records in touchdowns thrown, yards thrown. Guess what, though, Mike? They're not even throwing the ball that much, and he has to be hyper efficient just to kind of meet with the pack. I think right now what's really interesting about the quarterback thing, we can kind of pivot back to Mixon, though, is, Mike, like, you made a point here in this part of the segment where, like, quarterbacks run Superflex. The elite ones do, but the list which run Superflex is still short, though. Like, you're getting some guys that, like Maye and Bo Nix and some of these young guys, I think, are showing some promise. One of the things about Maye and Nix, they have enough athletic ability to where the rushing floor might be higher than we want to think, right? And that's the truth about it. Like, getting back to running the football with Mixon here, like, you have got to offer me a player in athleticism and opportunity that's going to might get me 50 yards on the ground today, might give me 40 yards on the ground today. And those are the ones I got to be interested in, because outside of that, dude, I don't care what you say. You can hate me all you want. We're kind of just flipping coins here, buddy. Like, next tier is a lot of players that can throw the football but don't offer that upside.
So put Jason's comment up here. JASCN. Great way to spell Jason too. Hopefully I'm saying that right too.
Let me find it here. Okay, so
why does Joe Burrow not get any love in the Dynasty community?
Okay, that's a good question. Here, let me grab that one. Yep. Then we got, you know what? We got bombarded with questions. Hold on.
Jason's on a point here, but let's
I'll grab it up. Go ahead. Yeah.
The reason Joe Burrow doesn't get the love that you think he deserves in the Dynasty community, even though he's putting up the fantasy points, and if you go look at WARP, he's the fourth quarterback, just in generic WARP, in the generic league I'm using.
Yep.
Is because of one thing. Joe Burrow is on a ridiculous pace as far as passing touchdowns. Like he is.
Big time.
Like he's gonna far surpass probably 40, might approach 50.
And their defense is so bad, they're just gonna be chucking, bro.
He's doing all that. Like he's having a fantastic year at the quarterback position, but they're chucking the ball all over the place at him. Like that's not a sustainable thing. Now, in regards to the Mahomes part of it, it's because you see this when you watch Sunday Night Football. Chiefs aren't even playing. Chris Collinsworth still riding Mahomes' dick. Like that's what it is.
And he ain't the only one, but he definitely is. Yeah, if he has a chance, he's riding it.
He's got that name cachet, and that bleeds over into Dynasty, right? So, like, the same conversations could be had with Patrick Mahomes in all reality, but nobody's going to have him because he has that name cachet. So when Adam and I are making deals with Patrick Mahomes in it, you factor in the fact that he has this name cachet. Burrow does not enjoy that same success, but they both suffer from similar problems, especially this current version of Patrick Mahomes, where the rushing production for fantasy is not there at a sustainable level. Here's the best point that I have to highlight this. Joe Burrow is just barely ahead of Josh Allen in points per game or WARP or however you want to look at it. Josh Allen has damn near 10 less passing touchdowns. Josh Allen can maintain the same amount of success that Joe Burrow has and not have a very good year passing because he runs the football. And if you go back and you watch the video that Adam and I did on 40 Chess, thank you, Dynasty Barry, for pulling all the data on this, by the way. He's in the chat. Shout out to him for this.
Yep.
Quarterbacks who run the football at least 400 yards or 500 yards have a much, much better chance and a much easier time at being fantasy difference makers than dudes who stand in the pocket and won't run for more than 100, 200 yards. Because the touchdowns also come with it. While you look at Josh Allen, you go, oh, it's only like 300 yards rushing. 5 touchdowns on the ground. It's the same thing that makes Jalen Hurts great, while Jalen Hurts is out there smashing Joe Burrow in WARP or fantasy points per game. Tush pushes, touchdowns, rushing production. Lamar Jackson is lapping the entire field because he is doing what, Adam? He's doing both. He's on the pace for 40 passing touchdowns, but he's also running the piss out of the football and put rushing touchdowns in the ground. That is the creme de la creme, everything that you want in one package. Josh Allen has been that in the past. Josh Allen will probably get there again. Joe Burrow is going to always have to have historic type years through the air, passing touchdowns and passing yards to even threaten some of these top guys, which is why, rightfully so, people don't give him the credit that he deserves in Dynasty. While NFL-wise, he is a fantastic quarterback, and we should be praising him for carrying this shitty Bengals franchise on his fucking back at this point. It is what it is. For fantasy production, if you don't run the football as a quarterback, you're more of that mid to back end quarterback one territory, and that's where you deserve to be. We should always shoot and strive for upside, while people are going to be like, well, Justin Fields didn't work out, or this running quarterback didn't work out, or ha, look at A-Rich, he can't throw the football. I will always bet on those type of guys, because if they hit and put it all together, that completely wins me leagues for years. And that shit nobody else can fuck with. Like, they cannot touch. So you should always be striving for upside and understand there's going to be a downside. Versus, we also see with these pocket-type quarterbacks, we just talked about Trevor Lawrence and possibly Jordan Love and possibly Justin Herbert. They don't have the rushing production. The floor is just as fucking bad. The floor is just as bad. But for whatever reason, because they stand back there and they complete 65% of their passes, they're like, yeah, that's the guy I want. That's the guy I want for my fantasy team. You need to separate fantasy and NFL. You really do.
Well,
NFL quarterback doesn't necessarily make a good fantasy quarterback and vice versa.
Well, let me hit you with what I think is not baked in at all and should be, or I shouldn't say it at all. It's a down the list point if people are even thinking about it. Right now, Mike, I don't know if you remember this, and I'm being facetious. I don't know if everybody else remembers this, but the Bengals went into this season with Jamar Chase making a point to show up at a point of practice, which was making his presence known that I do not have a deal. They are fucking up paying the most surefire receiver that you just don't not pay when the market was already set. That's the craziest part, Mike. It's not like they're resetting the market and trying to figure out what that looks like. Jefferson got paid. Fucking wide receiver 60 got a bag, for God's sakes. Jalen Waddle. Like, just pay Chase. I know they have problems. You know what's going to happen for Joe Burrow? You're talking about all this throwing efficiency he has to hit. What are they going to do when T's gone? What's this going to look like when it's? They'll probably fix this Chase thing. What's it when it's just Chase though? You know what happened in this, Mike? You got to see this Ravens game, right? Prime time. What happened every time he had to make a play to Jermaine Burton or Yoshi Vash in a big crunch situation? That ball hit the floor, buddy. That ball hit the ground. You know, like I think that's a point that honestly similar to Herbert is like when you have a play style like this. I actually don't hate Burrow, and I've made some trades for Burrow this year where it was sensible. It wasn't like at the crazy cost. But you have to understand, like, this is a window in time that I'm getting to use this warp, but you shouldn't be banking on it for forever because the weapons are likely to change. They already changed, downgrade a little bit. T. Higgins struggled to stay healthy. He's doing the best he can. I'm like, this guy's had a struggle staying on the field. His weapons are going to probably come down, and if it doesn't have this super high volume and efficiency, guess what happens? The rushing's not going to make up for it with him.
Here's the other thing I love looking at WAR per game, you know, and it factors out when people weren't getting started. For those of you who don't know what it is, a WAR per game, adjusted WAR per game is going to factor it out, right?
Yeah.
Here's the crazy thing, man. Joe Burrow's out here, and he's putting up a 1.38 WAR per game,
balling,
which is really good. There's a guy with 1.26 with one game played on the year where people actually started him. You take a guess who that dude was?
Quarterback or a skill player?
Quarterback, and a running quarterback.
Malik Willis.
Malik motherfucking Willis.
Had him. Got clowned for having him. Started him in 2 weeks in that Superflex League, baby. Captured that warp. Let me get that thing.
He could throw the ball to save his fucking life.
You know what's crazy is I'm going to guess who's also still there in per game. It's a guy that's sitting in second place in his team now. Similarly, but much better quarterback in my estimation.
You are correct.
Justin Fields, who still comes in for a package here and there, you know, pause. But
exactly. Justin Fields through 6 games has a 1.26 WAR. 6 games. So that's not even fully crediting him, right? Like, A-Warp's also telling you there's a game after he got benched where enough people still started him because they're absent or MIA. That one still counts against him where he had a nice big fat 0. So if you take that one out, I would bet Justin Fields has the same or better A-Warp per game than Joe Burrow, which is fucking great.
Dude, this league I'm in, this 5K payout, Mike. Starting 9. Dude, so I had Fields and I had Godwin, right? Bro, and I got CMC back. Mike, if they didn't fucking turn this thing to Russ, let's even say Godwin's out for you can't control that. Mike, this team is just fucking obliterating people. Right now, I'm still in the mix, but just think about Fields for a second right there, right? Like 100 and something yards for the most part, right in the air. Warp just like Burrow throwing 50 touchdowns for the season, you know? Like, Anyway, that's warp.
Running quarterbacks, folks. That's what you want.
Zach, I did see it. I appreciate it. I'll email you back too, by the way. I did see it.
Hot feet pics coming right to your inbox.
Yeah, just make sure those attachments stay private because, those leak out and I'm getting canceled.
Put them in the Discord.
Yeah, well, they're in the Discord. I don't know what Barry wanted me not to wish or to wish into existence.
Not us. Somebody said that Maye Nick sophomore slump is coming.
Oh, yeah, don't do that. I also just in that same league, Mike, I got Drake Maye. I'm curious your thoughts on this trade. I'm curious what everyone else thinks too. All right. So it's a start 9. I like I said, I had Fields. Is a league I didn't. Just by the way the draft went, Mike, you got to punt something, you know. So it ended up being QB. I had Watson, Fields. Literally, I lost every quarterback I had. So now I have Levis and I have Bryce. The trade I made, I just got Evans back, who I think is in a position to smash. Person that I'm trading to, JMO, he needs to win this week. Like, there's divisions, so you have to win 2 games. You have to be top 2 in your division. So he's playing Tony, so he has to win this week. It's like it's basically his whole season. So he's like, here, I'll give you Garrett Wilson. I'm like, I think Garrett Wilson, I'm wearing the jersey, but I want Evans over Wilson the rest of the season. So it was Garrett Wilson I acquire, and I get Drake Maye as well. But I send him Rome and Evans. So in a start 9 league, Mike, where I need a couple fill-in spots, what are your thoughts on that trade? Do you like it better for me or for the person getting Evans?
No, it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal, especially with Jersey May. You know, I'm always gonna rock with Jersey.
I'm gonna get the image and let you kind of. I want to hear some of your Drake Maye. I've watched him. I like him. I'm excited for him, but I'm curious, like, just your thoughts overall on Drake. I think he's a budding star personally.
I think so too. With a terrible offensive line and absolutely no weapons to speak of. You know, Hunter Henry's his best weapon, and that's an A-Warp tight end if there ever was an A-Warp tight end.
Even Drake Maye can't make pop, unfortunately, you know?
No, he tries. He tries. He still sucks. It still sucks. So I think with the...
Although Kendrick Bourne might have had a little bit of a comeback thing. I mean, well, he did this week. I'm not banking on it long term, but go ahead.
Best ball Kendrick Bourne. Best ball. Drizzy's been playing his ass off considering what they had. And, you know, shame on anybody who was like, you need to play Jacoby Brissett. Let the fucking young guy go out there and fucking sling it and learn. You want to see him clean up the danger plays and the interceptable passes.
That was going to be the thing if you didn't get to. Like, I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's like, dude, if you just didn't. Like, if you could take those Levis moments away. Oh, yes. Buddy. Mike. This guy. I think the upside for fantasy, just if he was to take those away too, also is higher. Like, that kind of stalls his fantasy.
I wasn't going to shit on Will Levis, though. That's a pretty good comp there, I'd say, too. But I was going to say, like, early first or second year Josh Allen moments where it's like you could see the incredible talent, and then you're like, what the fuck were you doing? Why did you throw that? Right? If he can take some of that stuff away, right, fantasy production is going to go up. But I think the thing that's most surprising is you and I both kind of agreed. We thought he was pretty athletic, but we didn't put him in the, projecting his rushing out to be, like, close to what Jaden Daniels is going to be, right? We didn't think it was going to be in that category. And yet, here we are, looking at it, and you're going, as far as actual rushing production goes, he might lead the rookie class. He might actually
He had that one really big game. He had that one really big game. It was like 80 or 90. Here's my question actually on him. It's funny you went there because this is what I was going to ask you. I think his ability has been proven, though, this year that he can rush the football. And not just with him, what I've watched mostly, I'm curious your thoughts here. I think it's more improvising, and he'll just, if he finds a crease, buddy, he'll end up like, all right, no one's open, especially given his cast of characters he's throwing to, right? Looking, nobody. All right, Drake Maye make a fucking play. Let's go. That you're seeing a lot of that. I'm just curious to you. Do you see him? And this is where I struggle to really project. Not that his ability's there. Is he gonna be give you a 30 yards type average when we look back on everything, or is he a guy that you think really does possess and will give you more upside in the rushing department? Not that the talent isn't there, but if it's based on just improvising, as his weapons get better, he might start to sit in the pocket more. You know what I mean?
True. But when he had Josh Downs, his sophomore year, I guess.
Right.
If you want to say
at UNC?
His first year starting, right? When he had better weapons, right? You had Ty Chandler, you had Josh Downs. He had better weapons.
Yep.
He still ran the ball there at a pretty good clip, especially if you go look at his counting stats. You look at it, you got to remember the NCAA penalizes quarterbacks on rushing yards for sacks, too.
Which we got to talk about that Pitt game, buddy. Oh, my God. I don't know if you saw that shit.
So, yeah, well, I lost a fantasy C2C matchup versus Matty fucking Kiwoom because of that Pitt game you were at, watching Kid Klubnik run 50 yards for a touchdown there at the end.
I was just going to make the quick point. We can go back to May. They had 8 rushing yards as a team because of sacks. 8 rushing yards with 1 minute and 40 seconds left in the fucking game, Mike. Now, I will give Dabo Sweeney and Klubnik a lot of credit. Pitt literally cannot change their scheme at all on defense. All they do, they press. They're aggressive on the stopping the run, and they're running man the whole time. You know what that means? You get these guys running downfield now. All of a sudden, the middle of the field's wide open. But to think they had 8 rushing yards as a team, Mike, with a minute and change left in the game, the guy runs a 52-yard run to the crib to win. The fuck just happened? And Pitt had their backup quarterback and an inept offense in there and actually almost beat him.
Crazy. Fucking crazy game to watch, man. I'm glad you were there, minus the loss.
It was fun. I'm not listen, I'm a Cleveland guy. I was born in Pitt. It's fun to be there when I'm like rooting for the underdog Pitt. You know, it's not Ohio State, so I can root for him. Oh my God, you talk about the life getting sucked out of a place, buddy. Whew, that was tough, but it was fun. Yeah, go ahead. What you got on Maye, though?
Judging off me watching Drake Maye through his college career, right? Because this was a guy, I don't know if you remember in our C2C league, before he was even going to be a thing, we drafted him as a true freshman in there. Mm-hmm. I said, you know, like, I think Drake Maye could be something special.
It's funny because at the time, it was like, you know, we were big on Howe, you know?
Yeah, like Sam Howell was that dude. Like, I love Sam Howell too. Mm-hmm. I would say in that system that produced Sam Howell, Drake Maye was the far superior quarterback. Like, he looked at it from jump from the minute he started. And I was the point I was making is it was his redshirt freshman year. His first year starting. He had better weapons. He had Josh Downs. He had those kind of folks, Ty Chandler, etc.
He had Chandler. Who's another? I can't think of it now. But yeah, he had better weapons for sure.
That was his best rushing season in his collegiate career. So he actually ran the ball where you get penalized for sacks. Again, behind a porous offensive line, which he took a fair number of sacks for damn near 700 fucking yards at him. Like, he was out there fucking moving.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, he can really do it all. And that's kind of where, for me, I wasn't going to say Josh Allen, because Josh Allen always kind of feels like, you know how we always try to compare the next guy to come out, like the Malachi Corley, that's going to be the next Deebo Samuel, and you're like, there probably isn't ever going to be a next Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, we don't have to make one-for-one comps. Like, there's stylistic things that are comparable, but it's not always the same. I'm with you.
But he was more like Herbert at that time. And I'm going like, fuck, you know, he's got the arm talent. He can sling this thing all over, but he's also very athletic, where you go like, oh shit, I didn't think a 6'5" dude would move like this. And he could. My
guy, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
The next year, when the weapons got even worse, you know, his last year in college, the rushing production came down a little bit, even though he was trying to do more. So I think it might actually, there's a realistic opportunity, like, for example, I see in the chat with Jay Jackson, when he gets T. Higgins next year, you know, when they gets T. Higgins and they draft fucking Tet McMillan on the other side, and his weapons all of a sudden are pretty damn good. There's a very likely chance, just as likely as it is to go down, in my opinion, that the Russian production actually gets a little bit better, and maybe it's 40 or 50 yards per game. Like, if it gets to that 50 mark, holy fucking Santa Claus shit.
Well, that's
with increased passing efficiency. That's something that could break fantasy. So Drake Maye is still pretty intriguing to me. You know, I'll always have J-Day number 1. But if you're asking me who the number 2 quarterback is, as well as Bo Nix has played, and his rushing production, we can talk about that one too, because that's surprising. As well as he's played with his shitty weapons, I still look at it and I go, like, if I got to make this bet, like, 1-for-1, I think Drake Maye might be the number 2 in this fucking class.
Well, I mean, I still think the talent of Drake Maye is higher than Bo Nix at the end of the day. I think both of them. Here's the thing about Drake Maye, though. I think Herbert's a great call. And the thing about it is, Herbert, right, when you look at the rushing upside, I think Justin Herbert offers us more rushing than he's given us every single year. He just hasn't necessarily done that, right? That literally is a perfect example in comp to where I'm at with Maye. Like, buddy, it's not that I don't see it. I mean, I think 50 yards absolutely is in the range of outcomes where I think part of it's also going to be like, does the staff give him 3 to 5 of these designed runs a game? Like, I think that's another part of where Bo Nix is more dangerous at the moment, because Sean Payton's fucking cooking up. He's cooking him up designed runs no matter what, bro. Like, and that part for me was completely missed in my Bo Nix analysis, because I should have been factoring that in because of the fact that, like, Peyton ain't gonna do that for fucking Drew Brees. You gonna run Drew Brees on design runs? No. Bo Nix, I also didn't think Bo Nix was quite as good of an athlete as we're seeing. He has he's a much better rushing floor than I truly anticipated, especially with the way that, Peyton's like, hey, I'm gonna make sure we get some little, RPOs and whatever to him. It's like, damn. Bo Nix has been balling, for the record, too. Like, I'm not taking anything away from Bo Nix. I still would agree with you on Maye. I think the talent's there. I would love to see the weapons get better and also him still want to give us a little more in the rushing department. Because if that's the case, Mike, he probably gets to – I'd put him, like, on the door when you talk about the keep, trade, cut, and just dynasty values rankings. He probably gets to the door of, like, right behind or near that Kyler range where you're like,
Here's guys just brought this up in the chat too with what's JJ McCarthy's upside, right? The forgotten man, because we don't even see him, and we'll talk about Michael Penix here too. But the crazy thing,
yeah, this is the 24. This is what the 24 class is becoming kind of fun.
We heard through the whole offseason, right? There's bound to be busts out of these quarterbacks, right? The fucking 6 quarterbacks there's gonna be busts. Somebody's gonna shit the bed, right? So far, the only one who's disappointed from his play has been Caleb Williams at this point, from what we've seen, right? We haven't seen JJ McCarthy, we haven't seen Penix, right? But Jaden Daniels has fully impressed. Bo Nix is surprising the shit out of people. Drake Maye is surprising the shit out of a lot of people. Here's the crazy thing with this whole fucking thing, Adam. Like, if I look at what J-Day's doing, obviously you say he's got top 5 upside, of course, because he's already fucking there. Drake Maye, I do think, has top 5 upside. With all of Caleb Williams' faults up to this point, the athleticism's still there. We saw this last game. He can run the football if he decides to. If he stops trying to make fucking whirling dervishes in the backfield all the time. And
I don't know that he's going to ever get rid of that, though. That's the problem. Can we fucking get him to stop? To your point, though, yeah.
But if he did, if he put it all together with the weapons he had and actually got an organization that wasn't dog shit, Caleb Williams, truthfully, in fantasy football has top 5 upside. Bo Nix is surprising enough people, especially with the rushing, and is a bit. The other thing we don't mention is in my evaluation of Bo Nix, it was a check down artist if there ever was one. Like,
well, I mean, and a lot of that was the system, but you're not wrong. It was like he never threw the ball downfield at all.
Was fucking bubble screens and quick slants, and then occasionally he would, the defense would get lulled to sleep and he'd chuck one down the field. But I didn't know he was going to, in the Sean Payton system, be like Drew Brees. You remember the old Saints where it was like fucking Lance Moore? Was that the dude who wore like 16? Like every now and then, like 2-3 times a game, like Lance Moore's running a fucking streak and they're throwing it to him. Like, this is the kind of shit with dog shit weapons that he's doing. So I will say this, with Bo Nix, honestly, if this trajectory continued and his weapons improved with Sean Payton the way he's playing right now, he's got top 5 upside. And I can honestly say with J.J. McCarthy, with his athletic ability, because he was athletically a notch below Jaden Daniels. I thought he was more athletic than Drake Maye. The problem was at Michigan, they just never really used him that way. Like, they didn't have to. They just handed the ball off to Blake Corum, threw a couple passes to a fucking tight end, and then play defense. But if J.J. McCarthy can put it all together with his athleticism and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, if he can still stay kicking for another year or two, J.J. McCarthy's got top 5 upside. The only one who's on the outside looking in, who I honestly won't say has top 5 upside, is Michael Penix, because he doesn't run the football. We know he's got the athleticism from his 40 time, but we've never seen it.
The thing about Penix is the crazy part is, like, I feel like what I'm watching from Nix and just a lot of these quarterbacks in general today, in today's day and age. And it's going to get to a point I'm actually kind of curious to get your take on this too. So I feel like with how I'm watching Nix and this, with what we saw measurably from Penix, it wouldn't shock me to see Penix give us a floor of 30 or 40 or 50 at all. Like
that in the NFL, then he decided he needed to run.
And if the way Atlanta and just a lot of teams are that are a little more questionably run inept, like he has to run, like what can't Kirk Cousins do when he's getting fucking crushed in some of these games? He's stuck there. Penix maybe has to all right, let me try to get the fuck out of here,
You know where Kirk Cousins is going to be as a defensive end. The
Yep.
same fucking spot, after he takes his 3 or 4, 5-step drop. He's going to be in the
So
same fucking spot.
I want to give you an interesting thing to think about though here, because this is I think part of what's really, really intriguing to me about the quarterback position in general. We're looking at with passing in general, for the most part, the passing of the entire NFL has been a little bit neutered, right? It's just not quite what it was, and especially when you look at 2021. Again, we've talked about this. I don't project that to stay this way forever, but for the immediate short term. But then we talk about the cheat code guys, right? The cheat code guys on rushing are guys that realistically, these guys give you a chance at 50 and obviously more, and then a touchdown or 2 on the ground. The Allens, the Daniels, those guys. What's really intriguing to me, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, Mike, as these older guys get out of the NFL, right? The guys that Aaron Rodgers, if you don't know, now you do. It's time, right? Aaron Rodgers goes. Jared Goff's one of the ones hanging on by a thread. Baker, while stiff-arming a guy, is not a rusher or doesn't have that ability. So many of these guys, I think, have the ability to get 30 yards on the ground. You're talking about right now so many different players. You're looking at Nix. You're looking at Maye. You're looking at Penix. I think you're looking at even still, not Tua, but Trevor Lawrence. I think you're looking at J.J. McCarthy. I think you're looking at Caleb Williams. I think you're looking at Brock Purdy, as much as we talk shit about him. I think you're looking at Herbert. The reason I say that, okay, check this out. The evolution of this position, I don't know how much of a floor that actually is anymore. Cam Newton's average rushing, when you look at it per game in his career, his rookie season, 44. His second season, 46. Every season after that, somewhere between 35 and 29 yards a game on the ground was his average. That's Cam Newton. Now we're talking about dude, if you get to 30, that might be solid. It gives you a nice little floor. I think the evolution of the Konami code versus guys that we want to run. The reality is a guy like Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers, these guys are getting passed up because if they don't throw the football, they are cooked. They don't give you anything on the ground. We're getting a lot of guys, I think, that can hit this, to Barry's point. I'm not saying we're here yet, but I think soon you're going to be looking at that 400 part we're talking about. That might be more essential for my quarterbacks. I want a guy that can, if I don't have that, I'm kind of out, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's kind of what you need to start looking for. Hard. You need to have that honest conversation. And I think everybody looks at it Joe Burrow, the initial discussion, kind of what popped all this off, is a good one. I think Joe Burrow is athletic enough to make plays with his legs, but you're looking at a guy who's going to get you 10, 15 yards.
20, maybe. He gets a nice little long 9-10 yard run, right?
Maybe run a couple down in at the goal line,
sure.
On a read option, and nobody thought he was keeping the ball, that kind of thing. But you need to have that honest discussion about their actual rushing production when you start to evaluate your dynasty long-term talent, and then start thinking about what you're actually trying to do with your team. What your realistic window is. Listen, if you're going to sit here in hindsight, right, looking at it now, Joe Burrow or Anthony Richardson in a startup draft this offseason should have been the question of, what am I trying to do with my team? If I'm trying to win right now, Anthony Richardson's the upside play. Because if he hits, boom, I smash.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to look at it as more of, what a productive struggle was, or I'm looking maybe 2025 or 2026 is going to be my window coming out of the startup, if I'm having that honest conversation, then maybe Joe Burrow is the actual selection because you're I feel a little bit more safe or secure about his long-term dynasty value. Sure. And I can pivot at multiple points. When Joe Burrow goes out and, throws for 40 touchdowns this year, I can flip him for the next upside play at quarterback for my window. But that all comes down to actually having honest discussions with yourself about your team and direction and about these quarterbacks, which a lot of people don't really want to have because everyone kind of gets into this mode I'm fucking winning this year coming out of a startup, or I'm definitely competing this year. And then, week 6 hits and you look at your team and you go, fuck. This is junk.
What?
This is actual junk.
What happened? Not to mention, the funny part is if you built like what we thought was the safer way or the correct way, more around receivers and drafting these running backs later, it's not that you couldn't still thread the needle that way, but you were looking at a lot of landmines you could have hit at the receiver position this year, and no fault of your own, right? Like that's the other thing about a startup. You can execute a startup fucking flawlessly, Mike, and guess what can happen by week 6? Toodles, like you're fucking cooked,
Toast.
buddy. It's over. Like you're down 6 key cogs, and what are you gonna do?
So, on the Michael Penix thing about the rushing, like we saw the athletic stats, I guess. From his
I was shocked.
The shit out of
Absolutely
yes.
fucking shocked.
But if you go back to his freshman and redshirt freshman year at Indiana, before all the injuries hit, Michael Penix was right around a 20 yard per game rusher at Indiana. Now that fell off a fucking cliff into oblivion.
Right.
After all the knee injuries and stuff happened to him. But
Yep.
we've seen him do it in the past, I guess, technically. So if you kind of wanted to believe that maybe in the NFL he might be around a 30 or 40 yard per game if he decided to do it. And he's feeling finally healthy now. Which, to his redshirt freshman year and his freshman year, my youngest daughter just turned 8 today. So happy birthday, Braylon. Shout out to
Okay.
her.
Happy birthday,
She ain't
Braylon.
watching
I didn't
this
know
shit.
that. Awesome.
This rated R. She don't get this on her YouTube.
That's fair. That's
She's
fair.
Peppa Pig and
That's
shit.
100 fair.
But, she was about like 1 or 2 when Michael Penix was out there rushing for 20 yards per game. So, maybe Penix gets back there. I don't say it's impossible. But it definitely could happen. But if you had to ask me right now, as far as upside plays, I would say Michael Penix, best case scenario for him with his offense would probably be kind of like how we talk about Jordan Love or Joe Burrow.
Yeah, so, man, this is it's kind of interesting. We went down this conversation and rabbit hole. It's like, here's the thing with some of these players, right? I'm kind of curious, too, how this shakes out because we talk about, like, C.J. Stroud, Mike, is one of these examples. Now, to your point, Bo Nix, Drake Maye have shown us more in rushing. Even if C.J. Stroud can do it, he's not doing it. That's not the way he plays. It's not like something that they look to do with him. What was crazy, if you remember in college that game versus Georgia, and he's like, oh shit, like if C.J. Stroud can run, like holy fuck. But
yeah, he
just
moved a little bit.
Just because he has the ability doesn't mean he's running, and he's not. And his style right now is not giving you that. So, but here's the interesting part to some of these players to me is like, how do I put this? I think in general, this is one of the things for me that I'm becoming extremely cautious of, and I feel like it's just so easy to get sucked into this type of value retention problem. And this has nothing to do with these players, or this is just in general, right? Where you see a rookie succeed, and it's around this time of year. All positions, all of them, right? Like you start to see them, whether they didn't get opportunity because they weren't on the field, or they're behind Jacoby Brissett for whatever fucking reason. All of a sudden they get the opportunity, you start to see it come around. All of a sudden, bam, that value starts to skyrocket, right? You're starting to get him like Drake Maye's where he should be probably top. Where does Keith Drake have him? Got to be top 15.
I would say pretty easily.
He's at 11. He's 11, right? But but now think about it here, right? This is, I think, like Penix. One of the great things I think about Penix still is his value hasn't surged yet. Now, granted, he's not giving you any fucking points, so duh. But like, I just want to ask. Part of the reason I talk about Drake Maye, and then I want to pivot to Penix here. Drake Maye from quarterback 11. Just stick with me on this for a second. Try to take yourself away from the Maye conversation, more so just to the point of this and just in general with players. What is the upside from quarterback 11 for Drake Maye? Period. Not much. I'm not saying it can't happen, but we're talking about probably 6 spots if you get fucking bullish. Bullish. Do you know what can happen? I love Drake Maye. I wish I would have been a little bit more aggressive at the start of the year for him scoring this year. I didn't think it was going to happen because the weapons were so bad. I wish I had more shares for my contenders, honestly. But Mike, I love him. North of 11 is tough. And it's also tough to stay because guess what's going to happen? Even though 25 doesn't offer you much, other players get exciting, right? They start to give you buzz. Drake Maye's excitement goes away in year 2 and in year 3, unless what? He's smashing the points per game. So the problem with, while you're correct, I think a lot of these guys do offer top 8, top 5 upside, depending on which one.
Mm-hmm.
So did A-Rich. I'm not going to say these guys get benched. I don't think they do. All of a sudden, A-Rich is at 18. Like, it's almost just as likely they go down to 15 again. And I think sometimes we don't at this moment in time, we don't bake in the fact that that exists just as easily, right? Like, it's just like, he's at 11, we're going to go high. Only so many players can be fucking money blue chip stocks. You know what I'm saying? Like, we start buying here, and it's like, that's where that 2 first trade for you with Maye. Now, listen, you can hit it, and Drake Maye could be a top 5 guy, but he's got to be. He better be. He needs to be. Like, we start paying the has to be price. And that, I think, is one of the biggest flaws in Dynasty that I've committed, and I see people commit, is like, you start securing too many assets, locking into that at this price, buddy, your bet is already made that it has to happen. You can't go backwards.
And then this goes back to the, in Dynasty anyways, the debate you and I have had for the better part of a year now in rookie drafts. Also the reason why I don't usually share this kind of thing, because I'm not the one who's paying the QB 11 prices for Drake Maye, because I was paying the fucking QB 28 prices for Drake Maye and rookie. You know what I mean?
Well, you were paying like 28 for Bo Nix for sure. That was crazy. His was ridiculous.
Like if you get into it, and this is why I talk about your rookie drafts. Like, for me, anyways, let me bet on these guys, because if I hit, then I'm selling them to Skeletor for 2 firsts and some other shit like added on top. Like, he's the one who's got to come pay the prices for me. And now I'm making the bet, like you talked about, like, can he go up to top 5? Yeah, I think he can. He has to, though, at that price. Like, he has to, right? But
he does. You're correct. I think one of the flip side is, like, when you buy like you bought, you are in, like, you got to also get off us. You have to make some of those moves, because you have, dude, how many? I'm actually, we could look up on the lab. You probably have on this 24 class still 20+% of a handful of these quarterbacks, right?
Easily. Somebody came to me today. This was the guy who told me that QB hoarding, when I did it in the startup and the rookie draft, by the way, because I took, like, I'd never win a championship. By the way, that team is in 3rd place with the QB hoard. And this guy who told me that shit is below me. But he came today in the DMs, asking what the price on Michael Penix was.
He's cheap. Quarterback 20. Look, quarterback 22 on Keep Trade Cut, Mike. He's cheap.
He came to me asking what the price was, and I said 2 firsts.
Well, why? Crazy. But why is he 2 firsts?
Go fuck you.
No, I mean, that too, but not just that. Like, Drake Maye with no weapons is at 11, 12, depending on where you shape it up. Guess what's going to happen? You can go back and watch. I did a huge video on this too at some point. But what's going to happen when Michael Penix is guaranteed, as sure as fucking rain, snow in Ohio, Mike? When Kirk Cousins' days are over, he takes that job. You got Drizzy, you got Pitts, even though Pitts has given you fucking nothing. Bijan, you tell me Penix doesn't go ahead of torn hamstring Dak, go ahead of Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield. Like, he instantaneously jumps to at least a first and a second off the rip, just by nothing, by thin air.
So sitting here with this 24 class, Adam, you asked ownership, 18 Jaden Daniels.
That's 18 shares, right? What's that? Give some percentages for context, because people
32%. 32%
there you go.
of my portfolio has
Jaden. That's a lot.
23.6% of my portfolio has Bo Nix.
There you go.
1 and 2.
I bet you, and I bet you all these guys, you probably still have 20+%. That's crazy. You do have so many shares. Damn.
18% Drake Maye, 18% Michael Penix, and JJ McCarthy at 12.7. And I don't even know where the fuck Caleb Williams is, because I took Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. I was
going to say, I think part of the reason you have 30 something and probably nothing, like where you were at and what you were drafting, outside of getting both of them, what you weren't going to get Caleb. Like, you made the right call, for the record, but you knew that going in,
Yeah. I was making my bet and gonna live with it.
Right.
I reckon to say I have more CJ Stroud than I have Caleb Williams. Nope, I take that back. I have
Same?
six Caleb Williams.
Okay, and that's like 10% even.
Yeah, 10.9.
Not a math whiz, but sometimes you get close. I tell you though, here's the thing, right? To your point, see your cost at the moment which you drafted them right now on every single one of those players outside, because Caleb is the one that's gone down. Actually, it hasn't been much because of value insulation, frankly, which is kind of crazy. But those guys have all been at this moment in time, and this is kind of where I'm curious on your thoughts on this now. I think every single time someone is going to come to you with a 2 first type offer like Skeletor did, with where you're at least for me. Now this is you do how you do, and I know you will, and I know you. Sometimes we manage exactly the same, sometimes we manage different. With that type of bet, it's like those type of trades should never be rejected, even on contenders, frankly, because you are locking in the win from what you bet on already. Like, so
I will say you're 1,000% right on that. Minus one player.
Is it Jaden?
Jane Daniels, because he
Jaden, I would agree. He's a Jalen Hurts asset now, where you don't have to move it. You can bet on it to stay.
It went from the dynasty community, right? When we didn't see him play football. I'm talking in a matter of weeks. Like,
no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't move 2 first. You shouldn't move Jaden for 2 first. I 100% agree.
But Jane Daniels at the end of August, like realistically across portfolios, maybe carried a first and a second and maybe some other like juice piece in a price. Like it wasn't a first.
It was not. It was like one of those players where a lot of players are like this, where they're close to 2 first, but you know you won't get 2 first out of them. He was in that range.
Correct. And then we saw him play.
Well,
and
yeah.
The 2 first thing went out the fucking window.
2 first was like by week 2, you were 2 first. By week 3, it was like you probably don't even get him for 2 first anymore. You know,
there was no fucking chance. Like, oh man, we'd have to go back to it. I don't know if it was recap or AMA. We were talking about it, where at the time, right, Malik Neighbors was smashing, and so were some of these people. And me, to prove a point, was sending like Malik Neighbors straight up for Jaden Daniels, and people being like, "You're fucking crazy, get out." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Again, a wide receiver who was also smashing and approaching wide receiver 1 territory. It happened so fast with Jane Daniels. I don't even think you got the 2 first window. Like, it wasn't 2 first, and then you look and it was like, oh no, price is 3 first plus. You know,
but you know,
whatever.
But you know what's crazy is, well, actually, you keep making your point. I'm curious because I think you were going somewhere different too.
No, that's exactly what it was. It was just nuts to see. Remember? The Savage chat, it was like we watched those games on Sunday. People are like live chat, and then it'd be like every time you do a play or score a touchdown, it'd be price just went up. Has 4 first now.
Yeah.
Well, 5 first or whatever it was.
The thing about
fucking nuts.
No, for sure. The thing about so the thing about these assets, right? Jaden Daniels in the situation he was in, even though I think the weapons need to improve and should improve. I mean, there's just no way Terry somehow has been slept on for too long, frankly. But as an NFL player, especially,
yeah.
But they should improve weapons. But he was in the situation, given he was starting and his rushing upside. It's like, now, if you thought you saw this coming, I think even you would admit like this was high end range of outcomes past where you did. I remember you were bullish on him, talking about top 8, and like he fucking blew through that in about 2 days. You know, like top 8 was a lock from early. Right? Nobody saw him being overall 1 at some point in Dynasty within the first like 6 weeks of the season, probably, right? So sure. Yeah. But at the same point, he was in the position where it's like you're going to see him smashing because he's gonna rush, he's gonna throw, he's gonna look good. I don't think anyone was like thinking if Jaden Daniels goes out there and doesn't do well, that it would be good for his Dynasty stock. That is what the crazy part about the receivers and Malik Neighbors is. We talked about this before the season. I remember I made the point. I did not think Malik Neighbors was going to smash the first 4 weeks of the season like he did. Like he was going to break those concussions, and then Danny Dimes really finally happened when he came back too, right? Like the Malik Neighbors we thought we were going to get, we saw finally now after the concussions, where targets are ridiculous, force feeding them, but it don't matter because it's just Dimes and this offense is terrible. But I said vividly, I remember saying what's not being baked in with Malik Neighbors is his situation so bad. If he was to smash, what do you do? Like you know what's crazy when you look back at this? it's funny when you're in moments and pockets of windows of time. Like right now, for example, we talk about these players where Bo Nix, I love what I'm seeing from Bo Nix. And if you have Bo Nix shares, I don't have enough, frankly. You can't be any happier. But like, I think there's a window in which we look back and like, this might be one of Bo Nix's most valuable points, because you know what's crazy about Malik Neighbors, Mike? At that point, Malik was like, bro, you can't trade me anything for Malik Neighbors at all, period, nothing. You know what's crazy? That's not the case anymore, but it's almost still the case. People saw that and don't care. Dude, think about what his price is right now. 8 overall. Keep trade cut. This is off of 2 weeks with a concussion and fucking being like wide receiver 30 for 3 weeks or 4 weeks in a row now. Like, yeah. The value insulation is crazy with Malik. Now, he's still below Jaden, to your point, but it's just crazy to see. And that's where, like, the receivers, I'm curious to see what happens with, especially Rome. Rome, I think, is one of these guys that could define the receiver value insulation, because JSN's another one where it's like, holy crap, man. Like, what the fuck? There's just, they can be bad for so long and still be okay. That is just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors are two very interesting ones because they both have very similar graphs if you want to look at keep trade cut on this one.
Big time.
You look in August.
They both were not the number one player by definition at their position in this draft that was loaded too, right?
Yeah, well, that too. But at August, before the season started, both of them are very back end number one players at their position, like overall. So
you're meaning like
Jaden Daniels was
top 12,
QB 12. Malik Neighbors is wide receiver 9, right? So we had some preseason action where we got to see them, so it boosted them up just a little bit. But they're still back in like rookies or whatever. In the span of a month for both of these guys, both fucking skyrocketed to 1 or 2. Jaden Daniels hit QB1 overall. Malik Neighbors could only go as high as wide receiver 2 because there's, CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson.
Did he really never hit 1? I thought he did end up hitting 1. Really? I was almost positive.
Never hit number 1. On Keep Trade Cut, he got as high as wide receiver 2 end of September.
Okay. Interesting. I almost thought, yeah, I mean, at that point, those guys, he hadn't played long enough that maybe, so I thought for sure he was like wide receiver 1. But now, granted, Keep Trade Cut. The other thing, too, with him, I'm trying to remember here, positionally, all time. Yeah. Wide receiver 4, 3. Yeah, you're right. It looks like he was at 2. But part of it also was, remember, if he didn't get concussed in that game on Thursday, Mike, I'm telling you, I really strongly believe then, if he would have gotten concussed, let's say the next game, he was wide receiver 1 after that week.
I think you're probably right.
He was on the trajectory that was crazy. Now, granted, that it happened, so I'm not trying to say that it didn't. But he probably, to me, Mike, he didn't hit 1 technically, but I think that's probably the quickest and fastest we'll ever see a player get to 1 overall.
It's taken until the last
at
week
receiver,
for them to move Justin Jefferson to wide receiver 2 and Chase to 1, though. So J-Jets had a pretty fucking strong stranglehold on that position.
Well, he's still, Mike, to your point, guess what happened? They just anointed Chase. There's a value, which it's like on Madden, if you go 99 is just the top, right? 9985 is where Justin Jefferson is. They just decided that Chase is at 9987. So, like, he didn't move down. It's just Chase snuck past him. You get to that 99 number, that's the one thing about Jaden. He has come down a little bit. I'm not worried at all. I don't think people should be, but, like, the finicky market of fucking this stupid clicking, right? Yeah. Lamar, Jefferson, Chase, and Allen, those guys are the ones that are 9-9, right? Those players are like, basically, it doesn't matter who you are not capable of probably pressing the keep button on those players, so it's just always them. Jaden is basically the only other one, though, that's in the 9s, if you look at it, right? Jaden is 9-4, and then you go Amon-Ra 8-1, Joe Burrow 8-1, Malik 8-1, and the biggest thing to me that's funny about this, right? CJ Stroud now is taking a dive, which is not really a dive, to quarterback 6, Mike, but he's at 7-8-6-7. I talk about assets here. A lot of assets you'll see when we talk about, especially these quarterbacks. Drake Maye, I wonder where he's at. Let's find out. Drake May's at 6'2", 6. You'll see a lot of players that I think get into this, like, I'll call it the pocket of 20 to 50 to 60. And it is, those players don't have the insulation, the name cachet. They haven't shown us enough to where they will fluctuate like crazy. Think Jordan Addison. Addison is a perfect example. Like when he was balling out of control with Kirk last year, that was a top 30 easy asset in Dynasty. Let's take a peek to where he's at today. I can tell you, I have an idea, but
coming off a touchdown game too, where shout out Fizz again. Y'all shitting on Jordan Addison. Yeah, it's the first time he's done anything in 6 weeks.
I'm sorry, Fizz. I promise it's nothing personal. He's just he's hanging on by a thread. Wide receiver 35, 83 overall. Right? Like, actually, Mike, this was one of the things I this offseason did a deep dive on, where it's, you can feel it in classes. This year, we talked about it multiple times. 24 class was 6 players, right? The 6 players that had, like, the smash, take over their position upside early, right? And then the other guys, I'm not saying they can't go there, but you're gonna need to see it longer. What do you got?
You want to take a guess at how high Jordan Addison got all time?
His highest spot on Keep Trade Cut? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a whole 5-year. I went back in 5 years and I looked at their insulation and like their point basically when they got drafted, their highest point overall, year 1, year 2, and year 3, and you'll be shocked how they all have this similar thing. But I would guess with him, overall player 23.
I don't know about overall.
Oh, wide receiver?
Yep.
Wide receiver 15.
10.
You got the 10? Okay. I was going to guess that, but I felt like that's it. I'm living in the world where he's 83 now, so it felt too high. But I was going to guess like 12. 15 felt safer. Damn it.
10. He got up to 10 at one point, Adam. He is at his lowest point, coming off a decent game.
At wide receiver 35.
In his entire Keep Trade Cut career.
This is the point that I'm making with the quarterbacks too. It's not just quarterbacks. They're the ones we're talking about at the moment. It's in general, Mike. There is such a just fact about this. Now, to your point of trying to squeeze the home run versus taking a double or a triple or a single or whatever, so many players are going to hit their peak in their first or second season and never, ever have a chance to get there again. Never, ever, ever. And I got bad news about these guys. I like all of them. And I'm not telling you that, like, there isn't a world where the 24 class becomes, because it was the highest drafted quarterbacks, that it could be a thread the needle where they're all good.
Yep.
You know what odds tell us, though? We're going to look back in 25 or 26.
Yeah.
2 of these guys were sells in this. Because here's the thing about it, right? I think this is where greedy, and especially in portfolios, being like greedy and savvy, there's a fine line. You want to be greedy. I'm not telling you should not be trying to get the best you can out of every single player. Like Trevor Lawrence, we just talked about. CJ Stroud, we just talked about. Think about what you could have missed with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is at quarterback 19. Does Trevor Lawrence ever get back to top 12? And what would have to happen for that to be the case?
Fair. So last year, CJ Stroud hit. Anthony Richardson hit at the early part of the year.
Yeah, and then, right, sure. Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young never really hit at all.
He didn't, no.
Will Levis kind of did some stuff later in the year. Where
he hit for his opening game. How crazy was that shit? Remember that game? 3 tutties? That was on the Halloween recap. I'll never forget. Yep.
So that class don't happen. 22 we'll forget it even existed because that was disgusting. 21, Trevor Lawrence had a terrible rookie year, right? Fields wasn't. He didn't start till like midway through the year, right?
Who?
And it wasn't that great. Justin Fields. His rookie
year. Yes, it was. It's a Jag too. The fuck it was.
Yeah, it was some Simeon.
I think that are you right? He might be right about that.
Might have been Seaman.
Dude,
Trevor Seaman.
It wasn't that. There was blanks.
Zach Wilson was shit. Trey Lance wasn't playing. Mac Jones was.
You know what's crazy about Trey Lance? Like, especially now with the Cowboys? We're basically never going to see Trey Lance play. Like, at least all the other guys, like, actually busted. I'm not even telling you that Trey Lance isn't a bust. I'm saying we never really saw him bust.
So, I guess the only one, man, maybe 2020 came close to like what this class is doing. Let's just say though, this class is far exceeding as far as dynasty value and excitement on it and how well they're playing anything I think we've ever seen. Period. Right?
Well, I'll say no only in this regard. I think. How do I word this? Put it like this. The quarterback values were outrageous in the past. So, like, even the upside Drake Maye's at right now, if we're talking about he did this in 21 or 20, like Mac Jones, for example, Mike, probably got to a similar range, honest to God, if you go back and look, as, like, Drake Maye is at or Bo Nix is at. Because the quarterback position just carried a mega tag on it. You know what I mean? It's like, to your point, the quarterback position is exceeding. I 100% agree. I just think from the value standpoint, I'm not sure that it like is they all have reached the same level. I'm not saying they're not close or whatever, but I think the like what did Mac get to?
You're not wrong.
Okay.
He got up to QB9 at one point.
That shit. Mac Jones, bro, we just did a trade show. I'm gonna spoil alert where Mac Jones is on a trade, and we're like, oh my god, he was quarterback 9,
QB9,
and we fought for his ass too.
So
my point though, Mike, is not that the quarterbacks right now aren't exceeding expectations. It's more so that like they're just still not overall weighted the same. But these guys are going up the board significantly. There's no doubt.
But that's a guy like out of 2021. That was a dude carrying the class. But to be honest, Trevor Lawrence is kind of the Caleb Williams in his rookie year. He played like shit under Urban Meyer. It was a fucking disaster. It was terrible.
Go to like Trey Lance, though.
Zach Wilson played like shit. Trey Lance probably maintained it.
Trey Lance maintained top 15 overall player.
Yeah, Trey Lance was like J.J. McCarthy on steroids.
That I guess is the point, is like the ceiling of which they had to capture was just stupid.
But Zach Wilson was shit. Justin Fields.
Fields even was a guy that was very up and down because of the community perception, but when he balled, it was like he went 21. Crazy. Yeah.
My other guess would have been 2020, but it's just Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert because Tua didn't play that well. Jordan Love we didn't see, and Jalen Hurts wasn't a thought until the end of the season. You
know what a good exercise is, though, Mike? I'll be to kind of highlight the point. I don't know how far back you can access right away. Like if you go to Tua's value, watch how Tua's value, like at the time you were shocked it could go that low, and look how high it is. It's stupid. It's like top 30.
Let me pull it up, see how far back this baby goes. Keep Trade Cut's got a nice little database.
So 2020
here.
though,
keep getting older.
You know what? Crazy. You think about the COVID boom with so many things. Like COVID really did, I think, kind of set off KTC too.
Well, so I don't actually have his rookie year. Right, Keep Trade Cut started in the summer
of 2020.
2020.
Exactly. That yeah, you're right. So the 20 class, I remember you right. You couldn't get rookie draft data on them. Yep.
Right. So in the summer of 2020 for Tua, he was as high as QB 10. Now in season, Adam kind of stayed right around there.
And he wasn't playing. Fitzpatrick was playing, right?
Right.
Think about here. So you go to Dynasty value. Well, Dynasty value was
Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow were smashing. Joe Burrow especially right up till he got injured, and then Justin Herbert, fucking historic rookie season, which is why he was sometimes the following offseason the number one pick in a fucking startup. Like I saw that many times. So
Mike, here's a perfect example. You click at the overall rank, right? November 23rd of 2020. And let's call it what it is. Tua in his rookie season didn't really do shit. He was honestly disappointed, right? He was coming off that super bad hip injury and stuff. 22nd overall fucking player, bro.
Damn.
Yep. That though, to the point you're making though, is I think still correct. It's just that, like, for example, if Drake Maye was doing what he's doing right now, if these guys were doing what they're doing right now in 2020 or 2021, you would be
the quarterback. Yeah.
You would be looking at top 20, 15, 30 assets for sure.
So we're looking at like Hurts or Allen, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, then Drake Maye, Bo Nix.
Exactly. I'm telling you.
Williams, even though he hasn't done fucking nothing, you know.
There was I do think the players
top 8.
I do actually think there's a couple things to that. One, the quarterbacks overall, like for example, 22 quarterback in the 21 and 20 season was like still very much superior to like high end skill players. So that's part of it. But I also think there's a sharpening of the player, right? People watching right now here. I mean, how many people watching today, even if they're tapped out, they're still sharper than they were in the past. I think it's still too high, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to make here in general. I wasn't the intention of this trade, the AMA today, but I think we're still a little too heavy, too high on this like first year ascension. But to the point, we as a community, oh my God, that was like the devil's curse, man. You're gonna anoint these guys in 1 year into like him category, right? Like Tua wasn't even playing well. He's him. He's a top 20 asset. Like, so at least we're not that level. The quarterback one I think will always be a fun one because when and if the quarterback position takes a step forward again in the passing department, it'll be very interesting to track how that goes, because if they end up getting high end warp as a majority, right now what we're seeing is the high end ones are still very elite. They're killing teams. But if you look at like top 15 options carrying that line high in warp, we get back to that land. That was the land we lived in when I'm not saying quarterback hoarding can't work now, but quarterback hoarding was a fucking cheat code back then, right?
Let's talk about that real quick, right?
Yeah.
You and I touched on it a little bit in the offseason. You know, we dove into Fantasy Points data suite, looked at some coverages as far as quarterback, where we try to acknowledge or project where the quarterback trend was. And I would say this year it hasn't been great. It's been a little bit better than last year, but it's still not great as far as warp goes.
The high end ones are doing great. The fall off from like 5 or 8 or whatever it is bad.
Here's the one thing we definitely can say: the re-emergence of running backs, right? And this is kind of what we talked about a little bit. We touched on it. This too high safety look. How do you beat too high safeties? Run the fucking football
in between the tackles.
All right, so I listen. This is just me going off the dome here.
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo Bills 9-2, leading the AFC East. What do? Run the football.
I mean, they made a change of philosophy in the middle of last season, big time, to running the football. Yep.
Run the football, right? Pittsburgh Steelers leading the AFC North.
Mike, it's crazy with that team. Outside of some years with Big Ben, that's just Tomlin wants to run the football, but there was some years you go back at Big Ben, might surprise you, where he was chucking that bitch.
Baltimore Ravens right next, right?
I mean, they've
also
been
a very good team.
Since Lamar. They've been a run football team, yeah. And then, they had Henry this year. Ooh.
Houston Texans. Shout out to our thumbnail. It ain't because of CJ Stroud that they're fucking number one in their division, is it?
It could be. It just that division's shit. To your point, it's this guy. Okay. Hello.
He's running the football. Kansas City Chiefs. Is Patrick Mahomes lighting the world up?
I mean, you might, if you listen to Collinsworth, you think so. No,
they're running the football and playing defense.
Mahomes is playing statistically. I don't think it's his worst. There was the worst season I think was like when the dynasty value fell to 3. Remember that? Remember how crazy that was? But no, he's not doing that well, right?
Let's go to the NFC. Philadelphia Eagles.
Well,
Who's carrying that team right now?
Well, Saquon and Hurts. Let's call it. Hurts is doing his thing. But you know what's funny? You're talking about these running backs resurgence, and it definitely correlates. But can I tell you the other thing though? Like the fact that the Ravens and the Eagles, who already ran the football very well, get 2 of the very best running backs in football has fucking supercharged that thing. Yeah.
Detroit Lions. Maybe the best team in the entire NFL at this point.
You know what's crazy though? Campbell wants to be a run first team, Mike, but that is a team that can and will. How many times have we seen Goff throw for 50 times? Like they're by identity they're a run first team, but that's a team that will throw the ball all over the yard. I mean,
Atlanta Falcons leading the division.
That I think is of all the teams we talked about, feels like they'll throw the ball the most. But
go to the team who's number 2?
The Bucs?
In that division, the Bucs running the football at a rate that they haven't seen in 4 years.
One thing about that is I'm curious. Before the Godwin Evans thing, it feels like it might not have been quite as run centric.
They were still out there cooking in the run game. Yeah.
I'm not saying the run game wasn't, but they were. Baker was out here chucking too, though. I follow your theme. I'm just saying When they had Godwin and Evans, they were a chuck it all over the place team. Who?
NFC West. Arizona Cardinals leading that division.
Yeah, Connor and
Kyler.
Connor is a vampire that will not die, my friend.
So I set this whole thing up that teams who have been successful so far this year are the ones who can run the football, especially against this too high look, which is preventing quarterbacks or whatever you think about it, right? Preventing quarterbacks and wide receivers from putting up massive numbers. This year versus other years, right, the running backs have stayed healthy and, for the most part, hammering.
I like this question, Marcus. We'll get to it.
So they're out here hammering, running the football at a clip, and they're being successful at it. What happens next year when defenses go, God damn it, we're tired of getting the fucking rock pounded down our throat? Like, if the Ravens or the Lions or the fucking Chiefs with their defense, whoever the fuck goes on to win the Super Bowl, which also feels like one of those teams I listed off, feels like a very likely outcome of one of them winning the Super Bowl. And they win with that formula. What do you think happens next year with defenses? Do they go back to like, all right, single high safety band, fuck this too high shit, we're not getting the ball ran down our throat?
No, I don't think so. Not yet, at least. I do think a hybrid probably comes. I think you make a very good case and point here. The reason I say the answer is no, though, Mike, is because you know who exists in this NFL still? 15. This entire thing is really about 15. Like
stopping Patrick Mahomes from winning his third straight fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah, but Patrick Mahomes, Mike, the reason I feel like the NFL is a very copycat league, and at the end of the day, a team like the Chiefs, everyone's trying to copycat to beat them because they keep winning. So, and why do they keep winning? And what are they trying to do to make Mahomes have to earn beating him? Like Patrick Mahomes, when he was at his fucking rookie, remember his I call it his rookie season, his second year when he was the first time starter.
First year as a full time starter, height of his power.
He absolutely would just throw the ball downfield, and Mike, he could get away with playing bad and just beat you literally downfield 3 times a game, and you lose. And so teams are like, no, I want to make
this the whole time.
Exactly. Like now it's like, all right, what we want to do is make Patrick Mahomes irritated enough to have to play fundamental football and not make mistakes and make 15 play drives, right? And so I'm not going to say that it won't pivot again. I just think right now, still look at the Bengals. You know what's so interesting about Burrow and the Bengals? This is a bad version of them. Part of what makes them dangerous and one of the only teams that could really take the Chiefs out is Burrow is another guy with Chase and these guys where he could, they fucking beat you deep. It's like the great quarterbacks that can beat you deep. It's basically like you don't want to see that happen. You want to make these guys have to make a lot of plays over and over, and you hope that you can frustrate them into turnovers. Remember, that's what was really happening last year with the Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes looked like a shell of himself. The whole offense did. Honestly, probably one of the most craziest point about last year, that team that fucking lost to the goddamn Raiders, Aiden O'Connell and them, buddy, Zamir White. That was the most broken team I think I've ever seen. They won the fucking Super Bowl, Mike. That's insane. Now, I guess that kind of is off topic, but I think a happy medium, though, is very much in the range. I think teams in general, when they're playing good quarterbacks and high potent quarterbacks, they want to keep plays in front of them. Because what's really, really changed and really caused this as well? You can't touch anybody. You cannot fucking touch anybody, right? Like, you got guys running wide open, and if you touch them at all, it's a fucking 15-yard penalty.
I like it. It's interesting discussion, right?
I think you're onto something, though. I don't think.
I'm trying to wish it into existence.
No. I think
2025 is a return to quarterback scoring. Wide receivers be king.
I think we're on the same page that I think it will come, and I talked about this with Mahomes, Mike, because the day in which you get a blend of it where the quarterback scoring even bounces back somewhat, Patrick Mahomes, one of the prices he's going to end up being traded for last year and next year, you're going to look back like, holy fuck, what did we do? Like, eventually, as much as they miss a receiver, they're eventually going to hit Rashee Rice. They're going, whether he hits or not, Xavier. You're going to be looking at 3 studs around Mahomes, and if the league goes passing, oh shit, man, we're in trouble.
I love it. I love it, man. Let's
What do
get
you
to this question, man. We haven't.
Oh yeah, this is a very good. Well, you know what happens though? Look, we got
researching as we go right now.
Sup, all you people. Sup, all you amazing people. What's going on, man?
Chef.
I do wish we had more questions. This is a good one, so let's answer some. I have a question regarding your advice on the process of long-term quarterback values. How do you treat aging elite quarterbacks who rely on rushing value? Allen, Lamar. At what point do you consider the fall off? So, really good question.
I pulled up some good data points.
Okay.
So we can talk about it.
Cool. I have some thoughts that are different than that, so this will be a good blend. I like it. Go ahead.
The first one that came to mind to me, as far as rushing quarterbacks throughout history, who had done stuff, and it may not have been a lot of people's first ones that came to mind, but he listed Allen first, so I went with Steve Young. So I wanted to look at Steve Young's rushing stats throughout his career because we assume he went to more of a pocket passer.
Let's start in the 80s, man. Let's start in the 80s. What do you got?
Well, in the Tampa Bay era, he was about a 400-yard guy. Like he had a 400-yard season. He also
rushing
had one in the
total.
Yep, he had 400 yards in 91, 537 in 92.
That's really high, Mike. That's really high back then. I just want to make that point. That's really high.
It is. And also one less game too. You got to remember that.
Yeah.
One less game. Here's the crazy part. At age 37, Steve Young had a 454-yard and 6-touchdown season on the ground.
Yeah.
37-year-old Steve Young.
Players in general played longer back then, but the other thing, Steve Young doesn't get the credit because it's so long ago, it feels like, and he wasn't flashy in the way. He was far more athletic, I think, than people really realize, though, to your point.
Right. The next one I went to, Randall Cunningham. This one's a little different, at least for me being an Eagles fan, because he got his fucking legs snapped in half.
Sure. Well,
from the pocket when they try to make him a pocket passer. So up into that point,
injuries in general, Mike, are going to be very different, though, because they used to have injuries that would totally kill players' careers at one time.
ACL used to be career-ending once upon a time. Bowie Miles. Shout out to the legend.
Damn. All right, what do you got, though, on Cunningham?
So Cunningham, he'd been 500 yards, he'd been 600 yards. One season in 1990, he had 942 yards on the ground. Then he got injured at age 30. Came back, had 288 yards, and never eclipsed that ever again. Never even came close.
Because even if you remember, we were young, Mike, but he didn't move the same.
No. Even in his late career resurgence when he went to the Vikings, right? Randy Moss's rookie year. They set the records for the best offense in history right up until the greatest show on turf came with Kurt Warner and them boys.
It's funny. I feel like some people think that's like Culpepper, and you're like, nah, you forget about the OG.
Was Randall.
I know.
That was old Randall.
That three touchdown Thanksgiving game on the Cowboys fist.
Yeah. I got to talk about it. The 1998 season. He went 13-1. He threw for 3,700 yards and 34 touchdowns.
You thought Malik Neighbors was a thing? Imagine we played Dynasty back then, Mike. Oh my God, Randy Moss is fucking liquid gold.
So that one wasn't a good one to look at because of the injury or whatever. So then I went to Michael Vick. Obviously, we know what he did in Atlanta. When he came back with the Eagles, his first year as a full starter in 2010, 676 yards at age 30, 589 at age 31. And then the tail off really hit about 32. So 330 yards, 300 yards. Then he went to the Jets, 153 yards with the Jets, and then the Steelers. People forget Mike Vick was on the Steelers. I need a number 2 Mike Vick Pittsburgh Steelers jersey for the record.
I'll tell you, I remember. Well, let's not go down that path. It's not a good one. Let's just not.
The other one I had was Donovan McNabb, another Eagles legend. He was a 600 to 500 yard kind of guy early in his career. His fall off came about age 29 and 30, and then he really tailed off.
But he also, let's just call it what it is, he didn't maintain his body at that point. Like he did not look. He kind of went down the Sean Kempish path, maybe not to that degree, but
I think the only one that loves the alcohol more than me might have been Donovan McNabb throughout history.
Well, if someone's going to rival and put the shit show out of business and just to dominate us, listen, buddy, getting blacked out. Mike, I'll tell you, in college, I was pretty much
before the biggest game of your entire
I was pretty much, Mike. If it was not a game that started at like 8 p.m., I was still. I'm not gonna say hungover. It was still coming out my pores. Like I'm still kind of drunk a little bit, right? Like
my man.
But I'll tell you this: if I and that Lee's McRae team, Mike, we go to the Fuck, we go to the D2 playoffs, buddy. Like, all right, I'll put the sauce. This is the Super Bowl, man. I mean, for God's sakes, it's the biggest game you could argue at all in all sports. He's so. It wasn't hype, okay? The guy just had to go get fucked up. Like, it's just...
T.O.'s working his way back from a fucking broken ankle just to play in this game, working his ass off. Probably doing 8 million sit-ups in his driveway.
You can't even tell me... Like, you think about that, though. That's the thing, like, a lot of the guys I played with, it was like the same wavelength. We were all going out and getting drunk together. Like, there's no way T.O. is doing all that and getting fucked up with them the day... Like... The disconnect of those two is kind of insane. But anyway, to your point, I think...
He's out there Willie beaming it in the huddle, just vomiting.
When you think about...
All right, gun right, extra... What was that, Donovan?
What it is?
Motherfucker. Never forgive him.
To your point, though... I'm curious. I think I know where you're going with the point, but
my main point is I have no fucking idea because I see a 37-year-old Steve Young damn near rushing for 500 yards. And
I thought you. All right. Well, I know. My point.
Never.
My point actually kind of comes and cascades some of this in it. So the way I think about it, Mike, is a couple of different things. You talked about Steve Young. He was different, and look at Steve Young right now. Look at his body. Like the dude's still fucking. Looks like he could go play right now, right? Right now, one of the people we're talking about here, Lamar Jackson, Mike, I mean, this guy has evolved so much as a passer, too. But the play on, if you watch the Bengals game, I know a lot of people don't watch every single snap of all the regular, 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games. So I'll talk more of the, like, national TV games. If you remember the play he made on the right sideline as he's going up to the goal line, it looks like the play's over. He's tiptoeing on the sideline, he does a spin. That is a play that's literally off of instinct because he is a better athlete than the best athletes in the world. The reason I say that, it's really important to think about that for me with Lamar Jackson is, Mike, 2 years ago, think about this already. It's already 2 years ago. Fuck, time flies. 2 years ago, I was getting this dude at discount bin prices because he's not going to play football next year and nobody in the NFL wants to pay him.
So funny that you brought that up. I saw freezing cold takes put out there from a Giants fan from 2 years ago. Said in no fucking way should we go out and pay Lamar Jackson what he's asking and trade any type of draft capital. Just pay Danny Dimes $35 million and call it a fucking day.
Yeah, let Saquon walk in division. But
Whoops.
When you lose your shit, and I'm drinking too, and I'm like, oh god, we could rabbit hole this to a bad place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, it'll be fun. I'm having a blast. I'm thinking though, Mike, the point I'm making with Lamar. To me, Lamar is going to be a guy that I personally am of the mindset, the way he's maintained his body, the way he has put in a ton of work. Whether you think he's a good passer or not, you're fucking lying if you think he hasn't improved. This guy is a student of the game. He works hard. You can think he's goofy. You could think he's not a good fucking passer. You can think he's whatever you want to think about him as there's no way to deny his development. And the point that I'm making, Mike, is him in particular. Like you see these two. I think there's exceptions to the rule for every rule. Lamar, to me, Mike, is going to be a guy that I'm probably just not. How do I put this? I will trade it at reasonable cost and elite prices. But I'm not going to trade him at a discount because I'm worried about his fall off. I'll let that happen as it happens with a guy like Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen's probably a little bit different, but not too much because the difference with Allen, I think, is we'll see his body break down because he's going to take big hits. He's just so big and just as he gets older, he's going to take those big hits. I'm not saying Lamar can't take big hits, but by and large, he still is just built different. So the running style quarterbacks, I think here's the thing. When you talk about the elite quarterbacks who rely on rushing value, Josh Allen, Mike, to this point, he's hard to peg. Because why? Josh Allen's still like elite to a different level than anyone else in football almost. Like there's literally probably 5 players, 6 players, a couple receivers, a couple other quarterbacks, small windows, a couple running backs that give you the type of edge he does. So, I guess to the point.
Here's another one, man. I can't believe I disrespected this guy by not looking up his stuff.
Who?
Cam Newton.
Well, Cam was. I thought you were going to start there, but yeah, go ahead.
Cam Newton, at age 32, in only 5 games started, 230 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Well, you're talking about the New England game, the New England team, right?
Nope, I'm talking about when he went back to Carolina. I'm back.
Oh yeah, fuck.
He had
okay.
5 touchdowns that season, Adam.
Because
230 yards in 5 fucking games from rushing production.
Yeah, no, he was. Well, go to the New England game, the New England Cam. Think about that one.
The New England Cam had 592 yards and 12 touchdowns on the ground.
But look at, like, for example,
He's
he fell off a cliff because his shoulder, and the teams basically found out he couldn't run. And that team was so fucking terrible as far as talent around him. Once you remember Edelman, he had literally got. This is a crazy part about Cam. Cam Newton in the game versus Seattle. People probably don't know this. Got the most passing yards that Julian Edelman's ever had in his career with all those years of Tom Brady.
Fucking Cam Newton.
Buddy, but guess what happened? He went down, and that team had nothing to throw to. His career's over. So, like, I guess another thing to think about with Allen, that's actually a decent point with Cam. Does he get injured? Is there an injury to his throwing shoulder and all that? But Allen right now has been able to do it without weapons. As you progress, as these guys get older, Mike, they might struggle. And if you see that there's not weapons around them, maybe that's a telltale sign too.
Dude, rookie Jacoby Myers, leading receiver on that Cam Newton New England team. You want to take a guess who the number 2 guy was?
It wasn't.
It was
Edelman.
not Julian Edelman because he was already hurt.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is I think I know the name. I can't think of the name, but if you tell me, I think I know who you're talking about.
I'll give you the college. I'm pretty sure he went to this college. South Carolina? Yeah, he did.
I don't think that's actually what I thought about then. Okay.
That
was 2020. That was a 2020 season?
2020, COVID year.
Carolina. I'm trying to remember. God, they were so bad. Who? Just give it to me. I can't think right now. I've been drinking too much already.
The Birdman, Demir Bird.
There you go. You know what? There was another guy that was kind of close. Who was that?
Well, in order of receiving yards for the total season, Jacoby Myers, rookie Jacoby Myers, Demir Bird, James White, Julian Edelman, who was hurt and only played in. Are you shitting me? 1 game.
And he had how many yards? Go ahead.
315 yards. He played in 6 games. He only started 1. I don't know where that.
Mike, he had almost 200 yards in that game versus Seattle.
N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry was honestly who I was going to guess. When you threw South Carolina, I'm like, I don't think this is it.
No. That's Arizona State, baby.
Well, I knew. That's why I said once you told me it wasn't that.
Ryan Izzo, whatever the fuck that is.
Tight end, 85. That's not a Michigan State Izzo. That's a Ryan Izzo.
Rex Burkhead, Sony Michel, and Gunnar Olszewski.
But do you remember the other thing?
Guaranteed white dude.
Hoodie was crazy in that season. Yeah. We're going down a rabbit hole here that doesn't answer the question at all for Marcus. Sorry, buddy, but you're going to have to just bear with us on this. Mike, the start of that year, he was cooking. In that Seattle game, he was crazy cooking. But the craziest part is they thought, like, this was like pre-tush push. They thought they were going to run that same fucking play at the goal line every time without a tush push, and like everyone's just going to, like, they're just going to run it down their throat no matter what. They ended up losing that game in Seattle. Do you remember that? They ran that play again and it got stopped. But
stuffed.
It's not the tush, but you don't have people pushing the back pile. It's like Hoodie was getting cooked at that point. Anyway, yeah. I think here's the reality. With these guys, if you're long-term values, right? I think you got to assess where you're at with your team. I think is personally the correct way to start and then to assess. Like, if I'm in a very strong contending window right now, I don't give a fuck about the fall off. I'll be honest with you.
Nope.
If it happens while they're on my roster, it's going to happen. Now, if I'm in this, like, my team's starting to fall off a little bit, I'm 3rd or 4th, or I'm not quite the strongest contender, or definitely if I'm in a rebuild. If you're in a rebuild, I think if you can get out at the Josh Allen 4 for his price, is just straight up the thing that you need to do. I'm not telling you have to, but if you can lock in that type of value, sometimes you just do it because you don't want to risk the fall off coming. And if you're in this 3rd, 4th, 5th place where you have a chance to go win, I think probably there is where you need to explore down tiers. So can I get out of Allen and get myself into a Drake Maye and get real assets back to have a chance to still compete with the big dogs? And if I can't do that, maybe I just have to hold Allen still and hope I can do something else. But I think the way in which your team is built, I think needs to be a big part of how to handle these guys.
I'm also with you. Like, these guys are amazing, but if I'm in a rebuild, this is why I say everybody's for sale at any given time. Like,
yeah,
I'm more towards getting market value on elite studs, like these kind of guys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not letting them go for super cheap just because I'm rebuilding. But if I'm a contender too, like, I'm also of the mindset I'm playing for now. These guys are amazing. They'll probably be amazing next year. I'll just ride them till the fucking wheels fall off. And maybe in 2026, all of a sudden I go, listen, I won the league the last 2 years. It's probably time for me to rebuild. Who wants some Josh Allen, who's still QB3 on keep trade cut? Like, who wants? Like, that's kind of where you line it up and you try to maximize the value and you get out before the fall off. But also just looking at it sporadically between Cam Newton and fucking Steve Young, you know, there's just as many cases that I could pull for shit. Maybe fucking 37-year-old Josh Allen still out there cooking with his arm, but he's also adding, 10 touchdowns on the ground, still sneaking. They still haven't figured out a way to stop Josh Allen on the goal line.
Well,
maybe he's still fucking getting it done.
Well, I think to the point you're making, and where I'm of the mindset of betting on these type of players longer, and there's a few reasons for it. But every player you talked to and ran through there, right? There was literally, to me, it's one of two things that got in the way of when they fell off earlier than 37s, or lack of fucking caring about their body or understanding of it.
Yeah.
So, Mike, Lamar Jackson, you think he's not taking care of his body? You know what he knows about his body and his nutritionist and all this shit? Josh Allen. The biggest fear, I think, at this point is like, does a guy like Josh Allen, who's just so physically imposing, similar to Cam Newton, you eventually have that war of just, you have taken shot after shot after shot, and then you maybe start to see some of it. But aside from that, man, the other thing is too, if any one of these guys tears an ACL, Mike, just think about Danny Dimes for a second. You're grimacing. I don't want this. Okay, Mike, we're watching Danny Dimes come off of an ACL and just run, Danny, run. It's not what it once was. I'm watching Cam Akers get traded for again with no Achilles.
None. Either leg.
That whatever he has was artificially created and put together with, what do they call that?
No, man, it's them thick rubber bands that sometimes you get in like an office space.
It is. It's more like these. It's like, the ones from the Expo I still have on.
Oh yeah, like the fucking Live Strong.
Yeah, like the Battlegrounds ones. Like yeah.
Like the I'm old enough to drink.
The fucking bro. The you get banded when you go in. You can come in, but if you're not 21, you don't get a band. Yeah, that's the OG days.
Right?
Man, I could go down a rabbit hole telling a fun story there, but I'm gonna take the high road and not do that.
Good. I gotta piss.
Oh, well, now I'm tempted to see if everyone wants to kind of contribute to keeping going. This is
pissing my pants.
You don't have to piss your pants. You just stick it out with us for a little bit. Let's answer a couple questions because we don't have many, but we have a few.
Yeah, hope that helped, Marcus. That was a long rabbit hole of shit.
I think the final answer is basically understanding where your team is, and for me, betting on these guys being able to stay healthy, recover from injuries, and probably fall off. The fall off might be longer than a lot of people think it is. How many 24 rookies do we take over the 25 101? Jaden, Leak, Marv.
Taking Drake Maye over the 101?
Mike, can I tell you the truth? That's the list.
3.
Jaden. I'm saying right now, there's a couple reasons why. You gave me the 101.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me Shador. You didn't tell me Gentry. It's the 101. I have turned the 101 into Lamar Jackson, Mike.
Yep.
So it's the 101. It is an answer of Bleak,
I'm just prodding
Jaden,
you.
and Marv. What do you got?
And I'm contractually obligated through signed shit sh.it to say Drake Maye like 14 times a show. At least that's the appearance. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Because
I'm taking 101 over Drake Maye 100%.
As much as I love Drake Maye or I love Bo Nix, I also have played Dynasty for a very long time. And whomever, I don't know, is it whoever?
Whomst.
Whomever.
No, I don't know. I'm just. It would be.
I don't know what the proper English is on. Whom?
You know what?
What
I won't do with my third cup of fucking 54% alcohol is try to be like the Ohioan that knows. That I don't know. Okay, either. All right. I'm not gonna pretend.
That 101, come fucking May, June, July, is going to go in startups before Drake Maye, Bo Nix. It's just gonna happen.
I thought I heard someone knocking at the door.
Thomas.
It wasn't. It was. I was just getting ready to say. I thought that was Brian Thomas saying he's BTJ.
You and I both know
BTJ.
that 101 in a startup.
No.
Say it's GT, say it's Tet, say it's Shador. I don't give a fuck who it is going to be borderline first round startup pick for somebody.
I do think we'll see this class probably where more like the 22 was, where it's like maybe it even gets into mid second, right? Late second, but like
Brees Hall.
You know what we're gonna see still? Top 24 option. So
Yeah.
Mike, right now, ask yourself: is Drake Maye locked in the first 2 rounds of a startup? No.
Don't know. No.
He's not locked in. I'm not saying someone wouldn't take him at 23 or something.
Yeah.
He's not locked in. He's not a locked in top 25 asset in Dynasty this time.
If I'm in your draft, yes. If I'm not in your draft, no.
So, dude, there's a couple questions. Mike's got a piece, so we gotta fast track him.
3 rookies. Malik
Lamar is probably learning to improve his health and watching 100%. This is a point that I'm talking. Cam is what made me think of the question, to be honest. Yeah, Cam. The thing about Cam too. This is one thing to think about. Cam had the fucking list frank. That is one of the more kiss of death injuries, right? And then Cam also had the shoulder too.
Yeah, I was gonna say from a quarterback standpoint, the fucking throwing shoulder was the
big poopy
detriment.
Big time. Okay, Mike. So
he had the hair forever though.
The hair was hell
what
yeah.
A style too. Minus the fact I love everything about Cam.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me just point this out. I love everything about Cam. I love his ability, his willingness to just do his own style. I love his podcast. I love the fucking cigars. I love Cam. I love Cam for being Cam. Yep. If I gotta read another fucking Cam Newton fucking tweet in that weird ass font again,
you don't love that? I figured you would.
Guy, fucking want it. I hate it.
What I will say I respect about it is more similar to like you, where that is clearly just stubbornness of like, I'm not changing for nobody. Like, fuck it. Like
that is me taking a sleeper for 350 consecutive days.
Yes, I'm looking right now. My side monitors went out. I'm looking down here because I'm only on my laptop screen. But Mike, here's the point I wanted to make on the Cam thing. Those type of injuries like consecutively, what you can't predict that. There's literally nothing to say for that, right? Like a Liz Frank and a shoulder injury and then written off career. Okay. Here was a couple that I wanted to get to. This is going to be fun, maybe. If I can even get my mouse to work. Apparently I can't.
I don't know if I killed this cold, Adam, but I sure as fuck made myself drunk. So
did you?
We got that going for us.
Okay.
Which is a plus. And it tastes like I just got done eating breakfast. So I'm not even hungry.
This is awesome. My mouse is not working. I don't even know how we kill this. I don't know how we even kill the stream. You know what?
Bubba's, if you're looking for a sponsor. Oh man, I'm so drunk I lost the lid. It was here.
That is bad. But you know what that means? You got to pour up.
All right, one more.
He's back. Mike, I'm out here with no monitor action on the sides.
Just trying to figure this shit out.
Well, so I'm going to give like a since I'm drinking, I'll tell the story, like, or kind of try to give you the visual. So with a laptop, different than like a hard like case computer, you have all those different plugins. The laptop has like 3 USB-Cs, right? So you have to get what they call a docking station. I'm pretty sure the docking station right now is like frozen up. So, Mike, here's what happened. You got a fucking fried dick in the middle of something, and then now, guess what we got? You got a drink. I got no mouse. I got nothing. I got I'm just lucky my camera's on. I can still talk to you. But this.
How you lose monitors?
Well, that's the point.
Hardwired
No, well, that's the point. You have to go through a docking station because think about monitors are HDMI. You don't have like multiple HDMIs in your laptop to like plug all that shit in, right? So,
true.
You know what I mean? So you have the docking station connects it. So I have this docking station with like 5 things. HDMI. It's insane. There's like 18 cables in there. Pretty sure it decided it's like, you know what? I had to piss. Mike, you should have pissed sooner. I had to piss. So,
by the
there's
way,
that.
Please,
go ahead. What do you got?
Adam, whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let me forget. We've done three shows tonight, like old school.
This was fun.
We went back to
I kind of missed the 3 shows.
We haven't had hardcore from like 7 Central on. We've upgraded our technology since we used to do the 3s. I used to do it in a fucking dungeon with a bath curtain. If y'all remember, if you're OGs, you definitely remember. Tile floor, whole thing. Since then, I've upgraded. You know, we got key lights now. You know, 2 of them instead of just one little shitty ring light. I've got soundproofing. You know, sometimes you can see it on the ceiling, which acts as insulation. I've got a much faster, much more powerful computer that puts off much more heat. Adam, I'll say this.
Is it hot down there?
Highlight is, 3 shows in one night makes this fucking room cook. And for a fat guy who's drinking whiskey, makes me sweat. So before we got on the show, this is why I say Chad or Adam, remind me. It's fucking 28 degrees out and it snowed today. Remind me to close the window that I opened to let in the cool air.
I didn't think you were going to say that. I thought you were amateur hour. The window behind me I felt like was a little aggressive. Okay, so I didn't cut that one off. The one over there is wide, spanking open, as well as the next one. So to your point, Mike, how do I put this? I need to also close them. But the crazy part is right here. So I have, with rendering of the holograms, right? Mike, it's crazy. I shouldn't even admit to people the hundreds of hours that I put into...
fucking server.
Well, yeah, the hundreds of hours that I put in, literally hundreds of hours I put into like, graphics and that, right? But Mike, I've got these things basically rendering holograms and graphics all the time. So I have 2 hard case computers that are Windows that do that. This room down here, sometimes if I go like on an all-nighter, bro, it can be fucking winter outside. Upstairs can be about 65, 67 degrees, and down here can feel literally like 79, 80 degrees. Because it's like,
I believe it.
You got the 3 lights up here, the key lights, the light here, 4 different computers running.
I forgot about that guy.
What guy?
That guy. The guy right there.
Oh, yeah. Hey, does yours ever make a crazy sound? Like when it's I keep mine on too long, man. Like the bass, the like electric bass. That it's like a converter that goes into the outlet.
Noise.
When I leave it on for like, again, on an all nighter, it's on for like probably 20 hours. It'll very faint, but it's like it's a little tingy. It's a little like illuminate, but it's kind of scary. Like, okay, this is a China thing,
It's been like 8, maybe on the draft stream.
That's the most you left it on?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, also, one of the things too is my daughter will come down here and she has to have them lights on. She also, so this Brownie the elf,
Smart kid,
buddy. Let me tell you, we get all the colors going with her. Yeah, yo, purple. We do that all night.
I could do that with a few. I got a couple ones right here.
What do you got?
No, you can't see shit.
I'm gonna try.
Very faint.
I'm gonna try to unplug.
Just in the helmet.
And hope that I get my mouse back.
There we go.
I don't. This is actually kind of like, this might be the most interesting thing that I've ever had to deal with. Like,
You're trying to work through it.
Well, no, I mean, the stream's running, everything's running fine, but I have no mouse, so it's like it's caught on one of these other monitors, and I just unplugged them. I don't have a way to kill the stream other than I just got to turn my laptop off.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Well,
like
a new one.
Well, yeah, because I can't. You know what I can do? Hold on. I'm trying to think if I can go to that one South Harmon exit. This is fun. This is going to be
figure
interesting. Oh, well, yeah.
That's
Well,
the other thing.
The best part is, Mike, you and I can ad-lib on a situation like this easy.
Dude, I'm sitting here fucking with this.
Hey, I tell you a good thing. I can't pull the comments up,
it's
but
weird.
if we have, when you go, you went to the lowest setting, right? It shows you how quickly it's actually going when you have it bright, right? It's funny.
It's wild.
You know what? Speaking of upgraded equipment, your camera is shooting and the stream shooting in enough frames per second to catch that.
That's wild. Look at that.
Give us a comment that's relevant while I'm trying to figure out how to kill the stream. And I don't hate you guys. I don't know how to turn it off. So
Don't hate you guys.
no, I'm saying I'm not like trying to run out of here. I'm saying I literally can't get out of here if I wanted to. So I can't pull the comment up. So I'm like, is there a comment that's like a question? You know,
Nope.
we can answer.
Marcus had a good one.
I see. Given the running back renaissance, is that the last comment?
That's the last good one we got.
I can't click it, but okay. Given the running back renaissance and the wide receiver position becoming essentially one long tier, I kind of get that point, actually. I kind of disagree, but I also kind of get it. I kind of do agree. I'm struggling with deciding where to place my bets for healthy roster management moving forward. Okay, can I tell you this part, Mike? You've talked about this. Me and you both have, but I think you've even more than I have. You've been more vocal about it, let's say. There are injury-prone players. There are injury-prone more positions, let's even say, with the running back. But at the end of the day, we're playing football. So you can make your bet, but who's not able to get hurt on the football field? Probably the best case scenario is the punter and the kicker, and even those guys get hurt.
Dude, there's been so many punter kicker injuries this
That's the right? It feels like sometimes, I don't know, it's funny how when they change the rules on the kickoff, like, hey, we want less injuries. But all of a sudden, these kickers are like in compromised positions, and they're just getting fucking destroyed. And it takes one hit for them to be done, you know? Which kicker was it? Which kicker was that? I remember Romo was talking about it. Was it Niners? Oh,
Moody got fucking blasted.
it was Moody. Yeah. Okay. Yes. There you go. It was like Romo was like, oh no, he just got back too. Jim, this isn't good. You know, like he gives it that. The way he's telling the story is like, damn, like that guy he just died in front of us visually. You know.
This isn't good, Jim. We're fucked.
Tony, I will say I like him. He gets. I can see why he like made it with Jessica Simpson so long. That dude gets dramatic as fuck for nothing sometimes. Like, come on, man.
He's a good dude, man.
I love him. He's. If we had more commentators like him, it'd be a good thing. I just mean,
please.
He will also make a pretty minuscule play or something take place that's like. He the way he will have you believing it's one of the most important plays in the NFL season, you know, like
yes,
that's what I mean. Like it's hilarious.
So Marcus, to your point, tough to decide where your bets. So this is all about team direction. If you're competing, who gives a fuck? They're 1 year bets outside of what 2 guys, 3 guys.
Yeah.
If you want to do it, I really don't look at dynasty value any longer than that for running. But if I only got 1 year and it was a championship, it was a.
Oh. We lost Mike. And he's back, kind of. I also can't click anything. We might just have to. If I'm with the stream, we love y'all. I might just have to turn this off because I also can't accept him back on the stream. We'll see you back here for hopefully a less chaotic AMA. See you back here same time, same place. I'm out of here. I'm going to turn my computer off. Peace.